Do you believe you live in full freedom? That because you can vote, express yourself, choose where to live and what to consume, you are genuinely free? What if I told you that inside democracy itself, not despite it, but within it, a dangerous bargain is happening silently? A pact you probably never consciously signed, but that may be eroding your autonomy day after day, in a way so gradual and so well-intentioned that you never noticed what was being negotiated. Today on Logos and Law, we're going to examine one of the most unsettling warnings in the history of political thought. A warning made nearly 2 centuries ago by a man who traveled through a young democracy and saw with extraordinary clarity where it was all heading. His name was Alexis de Tocqueville, and what he predicted about freedom, comfort, and power may be the most relevant thing you hear this year.
Tocqueville was a French aristocrat who visited the United States in the 1830s, a young, experimental democracy that fascinated and troubled him in equal measure. He was not an enemy of democracy. He genuinely admired its energy, its equality, its capacity to distribute power more broadly than any system that had existed before. But he was, above all, an honest observer, and what he observed beneath the optimism troubled him deeply. He saw something that most people around him were celebrating without questioning, that democratic societies, precisely because of their commitment to equality and well-being, carried within them the seeds of a very specific kind of unfreedom, not the brutal, obvious unfreedom of a tyrant with a sword, something quieter, something that would arrive not with violence, but with good intentions. Tocqueville called it soft despotism, and the name alone tells you everything about why it is so difficult to resist. It is despotism that does not feel like despotism. It is control that presents itself as care. It is the gradual expansion of state power, not through force, but through the slow, comfortable process of citizens delegating more and more of their choices, their responsibilities, and their autonomy to an authority that promises, in return, to take care of everything.
And here is where Tocqueville's diagnosis becomes genuinely uncomfortable. Because the mechanism he described is not driven by malice. It is driven by something far more seductive. The desire for security, for comfort, for the relief of not having to carry the full weight of your own decisions. Think about it. Every time a government expands its reach into a new domain of life, regulating what you eat, deciding what your children should learn, determining which risks you are allowed to take, it does so under the banner of protection, of good intentions, of making sure that citizens are safe, informed, and well cared for. And individually, each of these interventions can seem not only reasonable, but genuinely beneficial. But Tocqueville saw the cumulative effect. He described a power that covers the surface of society with a network of small, complicated rules, minute and uniform, through which even the most original minds cannot penetrate. A power that does not break wills, but softens them, bends them, and directs them. That does not tyrannize, but compresses, enervates, extinguishes, and stupefies a people, until each nation is reduced to nothing better than a flock of timid and industrious animals, of which the government is the shepherd. A flock of timid and industrious animals. He wrote that in 1840. Read it again and tell me it does not sound familiar.
The pattern Tocqueville identified is this. Democratic societies, in their legitimate pursuit of equality and well-being, tend to produce citizens who are increasingly focused on private comfort and decreasingly engaged with public life. People who are busy, prosperous, distracted, and therefore perfectly willing to outsource the burdens of self-governance to whoever promises to handle them efficiently. And here is the paradox at the heart of his warning. The more comfortable citizens become, the less equipped they are to notice what is being lost. Because what is being lost is not taken by force, it is traded, voluntarily, in exchange for something that feels like a benefit. Safety, in exchange for a certain freedom of movement. Convenience, in exchange for a certain capacity for independent judgment. Protection, in exchange for the responsibility of making your own choices, and living with their consequences. Each trade seems reasonable in isolation. Taken together, over time, they produce something Tocqueville feared more than any revolution: a society where freedom exists in name, where elections are held and rights are formally protected, but where citizens have gradually, imperceptibly, become dependents, where the habit of autonomy has atrophied from disuse, where the capacity for self-governance, like any capacity that is never exercised, has quietly and comfortably disappeared.
And here is the discovery Tocqueville leaves us with, the warning that cuts deepest precisely because it is so difficult to act on. The greatest threat to your freedom will not come from an obvious tyrant. It will not arrive with uniforms and violence and unmistakable signs of oppression. It will come from a power that expands gradually, offering comfort and security at every step, asking only that you delegate a little more, depend a little more, choose a little less. It will feel like progress. It will be presented as care. And by the time it becomes visible for what it truly is, the habits of freedom, the willingness to take responsibility, to bear the discomfort of genuine autonomy, to participate actively rather than receive passively, may already have been lost. Tocqueville did not hate democracy. He loved it too much to flatter it. He saw its extraordinary promise and its specific vulnerability, and spent his life trying to warn those who lived inside it about the danger they were least likely to see, precisely because it would arrive dressed as something they wanted. The question he leaves us with is not whether the state should exist or whether government serves any legitimate purpose. Of course it does. The question is whether you are a citizen or a subject, whether you engage with power or simply receive its benefits, whether you exercise your freedom or merely enjoy the comfort of having traded it away for something that felt, in the moment, like a reasonable deal.
Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever stopped to think about which areas of your life you have quietly traded freedom for comfort? Where have you accepted a dependency that, on reflection, cost you more than you realized at the time? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because this is exactly the kind of conversation Tocqueville wanted citizens to have, and that democratic societies tend to avoid, because it is easier to enjoy the comfort than to examine what it cost. If this video made you think, share it with someone who takes freedom seriously. The warning Tocqueville left is only useful if people actually hear it. This is Logos and Law. See you in the next one.